All right, we're here with Surge Sully. He's checking out the Ego mini bike today. So this has changed a little bit from the last time you saw it.
Yeah, it's changed quite a bit. A couple new colors here and there. New tires, a little fendy, a couple lights. It's the Mini Grom.
I called you out here today to show us how to wheelie the Ego mini bike. This hasn't caught on to bike life, you know, it's not really that kind of bike yet.
Right.
Because we are trying to obviously make it something that bike people would like. In its current state with the power levels, even though it is sort of like, you know, tame, it still can be wheelied.
It's still very wheeliable. The perfect bike to learn on because it's not super high power, but it's got a super smooth and predictable throttle curve. The 72 volt Razor was the very first bike that I actually I bought it and built it intending to wheelie it. It wasn't just like, you know, I accidentally popped a wheelie, you know, power wheelie or whatever. It was like actually learning how to wheelie. I was watching, you know, YouTube videos. Some bikes like this have kind of a lower balance point. So like on a Suron, you have to be kind of far back in the wheelie to hit balance point, to where like the Razor and stuff is a little lower. If you accidentally hit the gas too much, you have more time to react and hit the brake before you flip over backwards and end up on your butt and really sad.
Obviously different than the Razor in a lot of different ways.
This is double the weight. The wheel and tire setup is way bigger. It's a hub motor, not a mid-drive motor. The suspension on this is far superior to anything that the Razor has. The seat is way better than the Razor seat. Like I could actually ride this for distance and not hurt. Every time I rode the Razor for the whole duration of the 24 amp hour battery, my butt would be so sore I would not want to ride for like the rest of the day. I was done. That was it.
I guess what we want to learn is like, what are the things that we need to know? How do you feather the throttle? How are you tapping the rear brakes while also positioning yourself to balance?
The two main keys in that is throttle control and brake modulation.
Now we've all seen Sarancer's video where he's like, rear brake, train that, you know, keep that in your head. That's your lifeline, essentially.
Correct. Yeah, and there's tons out there, and you can watch, and each person's perspective on how to wheelie is very different. So by watching multiple people's videos, you can kind of get more pointers than just watching one person's video.
People are probably going to learn on this, don't have the street tires installed, they'll have the dirt tires. So, you know, learning on grass is probably ideal.
Yeah, if you can learn on grass, if you don't have that option, pad up. Wear protection, you know, wear a helmet. If you have the back guard, that's really nice. They even make padded pants if you wanted to go that far, but you won't see me in padded pants.
Or if you have a wheelie machine like us, you could throw, because it does have dimples.
Yeah, so you can run it on the wheelie machine. It's direct bolt on.
And like a good attitude. You know, I get frustrated, you know that, I give up.
The main thing is practicing as much as possible. I mean, just a little bit every day. I mean, even if it's 15, 20 minutes, just every day as consistently as you can. I mean, obviously there's rain and life and stuff, but as consistently as you can, you'll see your growth go so quickly. It is absolutely insane.
In the Ego Mods video, I showed you guys how to disable the motor cutoff, right? That's important to learn how to wheelie this bike.
Can't do it without that. If you hit the brakes and it cuts the power to the motor, you're just gonna come back down almost every time from the wheelie. It's doable, but it's not how any of us wheelie.
So I do have the motor cutoff enabled on this side, which means that we can't do a rolling burnout. Adjusting the bars. Now, we didn't bring a tool out here, unfortunately. So my bars are like further in because I'm shorter than Ben.
Yeah, generally speaking, you want them to be as level with the fork as possible for a good setup. You can go a little in either direction for whatever is comfortable for you. That's just a baseline. Start there and then move it to where you prefer it to be. One more thing to note is the brake lever position. You don't want it to be this high up, so you want this to be further down. So when you're at balance point, the lever is more level with the bar instead of you having to reach up for it. Also, putting it in sport mode is very important, just to have enough power to pop it up. The normal mode definitely isn't enough unless you're doing something really slow. Yeah,
it's gonna be really hard.
You're gonna be crawling. You're gonna have both feet down and you're gonna be walking the bike. Before you start, you definitely wanna make sure that your brakes are adjusted properly. And that meaning that when you pull the brake, it doesn't go to your knuckle and touch your knuckle so that you can't pull them any further. That will cause you to not have enough brakes when you need it, and you will end up on your butt. Let's give her a try. So first we're gonna talk about the pop. It's the most crucial part. It's to not pop it too much to flip over right away and not to pop it too little so that it doesn't come up too high. You want to be ready with your finger over the brake. Definitely watch Sronster's video, and like he says a million times, cover the brake, cover the brake, cover the brake. So you're always going to want to make sure that if you feel like you're going to flip over, or if you're uncertain of the wheelie, you're just ready to hit that brake at all times. So popping it up, you want to pop it up and then hit the brake, so that way you can kind of gauge the amount of throttle that it takes to get to balance point and maintain it. And then also, if you are having a hard time getting that, you can plant both your feet and pop it up and hit the brake, and you can kind of walk with the bike while it's doing a wheelie, and then you can hit the gas and the brake easier because you're using your feet to balance you from going backwards. So it's physically stopping you from flipping over. So positioning on the bike is also very important. You want to make sure that your shoulders are squared and your body, you're not trying to pull yourself to the bar, because when you pull yourself forward, that's going to push the front tire down. And if you lean back too much, that's better than leaning forward too much, but if you do lean back too much, you'll feel it. You're just trying to balance kind of like a seesaw. You don't want to lean too far forward or too far back and, you know, slam up or slam down. Definitely start with both feet down. It's the easiest way to do it. Pop it up, and once you get that pop mastered, you'll be able to at least get to this point to where you're popping it up and then hitting the brake and probably coming back down. That's a good start. Now all you're trying to do is manage the brake lever now. So now you're just trying to hit the brake a little less every time until you get it to kind of stay, this is balance point here, kind of stay in that balance point. So it's really just kind of a balance between how much throttle you're giving it and how much brake you're giving it. So you're really just giving it throttle until it's up to a balance point, and then as soon as it gets past, you're hitting the brake. So below it, hitting the gas, past it, hitting the brake. Below it, hitting the gas, hitting the gas, hitting the gas, past it, hitting the brake. And you just keep repeating those until you get it to where you can go and slow down and maintain a speed. Then once you get both feet down, the next thing is it's a very similar concept with one foot down. You're putting your one foot on the peg so that now you're starting to get the left and right balance of the bike. And that's really one of the hardest parts, is the left and right balance. Getting balance point and going straight is pretty easy for the most part. The wider the tire, it helps. With these giant street tires, I don't think we'll have any issues with that, which makes this a really good beginner bike. I did let a little bit of air out of the tire to lower the tire pressure in the rear. It gives it a wider contact point, but these being tubeless, they're pretty stiff sidewalls, so it didn't really do much. For learning, if you are comfortable, use your right foot on the peg, because if you do switch to a gas bike in the future, they have foot brakes, and this is where the foot brake is, and you never want to take your foot off the foot brake if you're doing wheelies, unless you know what you're doing. So it's best practice to practice with your right foot on the peg if possible, but if you're only comfortable the other way, start there, and you can always learn to do it the other way once you know how to do it and you're more comfortable. When you're popping it up, it's really the only time that you're like jabbing into the throttle. You really want to stay smooth and consistent. Once you pop it up to balance point, it really doesn't take much throttle to go anywhere. You're like just barely touching it to stay at balance point. And a really good beginning practice that you would think would be harder is circles, because you're planting your foot and it pulls you the way that you're trying to turn while you're turning. So it makes it fairly easy, especially if you have the slow wheelie down. So you can pop it up and do just a slow wheelie, and your foot like kind of pivots you around in a circle. You know, gas, brake, gas, brake, gas, brake, brake, brake. Don't rush anything. You just want to stay calm and level-headed and just keep practicing, because you are going to set the tire down 100 times before you get one really good wheelie, and it'll just be getting more and more consistent with practice. So you're trying to jab the throttle, pop it up, and then maintain a consistent low throttle to kind of hover at that balance point. And if you need to, walk the bike with your foot so that you can go for a further distance. It's not cheating, you're just learning. Jab the throttle, and then as soon as you get too far back, you hit the brakes. So you want to make sure that your body, when you're hitting the brakes, doesn't come too close to the bar, but you want to move your body with the bike. So as the bike comes up, your body position will be moving forward. So we're like When you're sitting, it'd be kind of like a 90-degree angle to where when it pops up and you're getting closer to that balance point, you want to be more at like, what would you say, this is like a 45? You want to be more at like a 45 when it gets to balance point, and then kind of let the bike fall and keep your body positioning the same. So you're leaving your arms loose. You're not stiff. You're not moving your body with the bike like this. This will make it feel very bobbleheady, to where if you let it kind of come towards you, you know, so you're not fighting the bike. You're using balance. You're not fighting the bike. You're using balance. So if you are at balance point and you jab the throttle too hard, this is kind of what it's going to look like. You're going to be slamming the brakes really hard, and you're going to be accelerating really fast, or you're just going to come to a complete stop, basically upside down. If your butt isn't firmly planted on the seat, you're just going to slide right off. So if you are keeping your butt off the seat, I started to slide off the seat there. You want to keep your butt on the seat, and then use your feet as just like training wheels. You're just kind of dragging them. So you don't want to give it too much throttle that your butt comes off the seat. You want to make sure that you give it enough throttle to where you're on it and it's controlled, and you're not just flipping the bike over. So can you do a wheelie while riding? Yes, but it's really underpowered and it's really heavy, so you're definitely going to have to use your body weight to your advantage. So how I do it is, the easiest way for me is in a knee knock, so that I can use more weight to lean back. Requires going at least, 5 miles an hour, I would say. Oh, that's all you get. Trying to wheelie it as it is very difficult. And maybe in the future, once they make 72-volt kits for it, it'll be far easier to ride, having more power. Learning to wheelie though, everything's slow. So from that standpoint, doing circle wheelies, doing slow feet down wheelies, putting just one foot up and going straight, it's perfect for all those things, and you can maintain like a 10 to 15 mile an hour wheelie like you could be in like a pedal bike pack and be able to keep up with them no problem and be able to wheelie the entire time. If you were to ever get anything bigger like a Sur-Ron or a Talaria, all of these things that I'm teaching you will all transfer over into that bike. So if you're already in the Ego ecosystem, getting this bike is almost a no-brainer, because it's a very entry-level bike for just about anyone, and then especially for wheelies because of the low power and the smooth and responsive throttle and the big moto brakes. The next video, we're gonna get the wheelie machine out, we're gonna adjust the bars, we're gonna get this thing ready to rip, and I'm gonna maybe spend a couple more minutes on it, get a little more practice. Seat time is everything. Yeah, we'll show you more brake control, more throttle control. We'll get more in depth in what I'm doing with my body while we're wheeling, and we'll talk about home base, which home base is how you wheelie comfortably. Most people either start in a sit down or in a knee knocker and then transfer from there, and we'll elaborate more on those when we get to that. And then once we get this kit installed to where it has more power and it's tunable, we are going to make this thing an absolute street monster, and we are going to take it everywhere that we can. And I'm going to try to street ride it in the Sur-Ron packs and with dirt bikes and everything.